Hey everybody, the English version of Cookie Run BRAVERSE is finally here! I know I'm a little late on the uptake, but that's because the folks behind the game were rigging up a nice big gaggle of stuff for me, basically on the condition that I give a bunch of it away. Anyway, I've done a video about the Korean version of Cookie Run BRAVERSE already, but the short of it is that BRAVERSE is a kid-friendly game where the goal is to break your opponent's cookies with an odd mix of mechanics from Pokemon and Magic the Gathering. Basically, it has the hit points and attack mechanics of Pokemon, but you instead pay for the attacks by tapping resources like Magic the Gathering. It's a game that I have mentioned actually walks the walk of being an easy game to learn, free of a lot of the sorts of odd mechanics from other games that claim to be so simple. Cookies are free to play, and you place cards from the top of your deck underneath them equal to their hit point count, with damage sending them to the discard pile with a possible flip effect as each damage taken is revealed. Run out of HP and the card goes to the break area, with the first player to accumulate 10 levels of cookies in their break area being the loser. As you can guess, deck out is not a loss condition due to how hit points work. And while there are a lot of vanilla cookies, no pun intended, there's actually plenty of depth to be had. There are cards that are high risk and high reward, some that encourage particular synergies, others that counter specific playstyles, and even at least one card that lets you check and rearrange the order of a cookie's hit points to place the triggers on top. As for the triggers, they are a little bare bones, but I suppose this is easy to understand as unlike so many games that have between only 4 and 6 shield cards, the average number of cards that get flipped in a game of BRAVERSE is more in the ballpark of 20. So weaker flip effects are par for the course, but some of the effects are like going -1 for an effect like healing 1 or dealing damage to 1, and the cards these flip effects are attached to tend to be themselves basic vanillas, and not one of these trigger effects actually adds the card to your hand, which, now that I think about it, is actually a good effect to put on any given deck's ace monster, like they do in... Oh man, did I just praise the freaking Nikkei card game? I'll get to you! So for an initial offering, we have so far gotten 2 sets and all 5 starter decks. The 2 sets are actually each a pair of the Korean sets in order to help the game catch up more quickly, with larger packs, boxes, and a guaranteed rare slot in every pack. But otherwise, it seems to be unchanged from the Southeast Asian offering. They have the same card effects, the same text, the same artwork, and the same back, so you could probably get cards from there about as easily. Now, the starter decks are identical to the Korean starter decks, being a pre-constructed deck with no lower than half playset of any one card, all of which are unique to the starter decks, just like the ones you get in games like Digimon or One Piece. But while the Korean version of the red deck came with a cute little Gingerbrite promo card, the English version of this deck comes with a full art level 3 strawberry crepe cookie. Upgrade. The playmat is also two-sided, having both a regular print and a print featuring the included promo card. Also neat, although the original version had a tip sheet on how to use the deck on the back. If we had gotten a version of this playmat that had the promo print on the top and the tip sheet on the bottom, then we'd probably have perfection. The only concern I have with is these rules. Whoever translated these rules for them did a crummy job. So many things are confusing or even straight up incorrect, which actually does not carry over to the playmat, so I don't know how this happened. There's also a few cards which also mistakenly say can be used as, which is clearly supposed to be a resource cost for a triggered ability. Little things like this can kinda hurt in the long run. So, between the 2 sets released so far, we have Brave Beginnings, which is a combination of Korean sets 1 and 2, which means we skip the awkwardness of not having every color available at the start, and Age of Heroes and Kingdoms, which is a combination of sets 3 and 4, and I'm going to be honest, there is no shame in jumping right into set 2 alongside a few starter decks, maybe hunting down some important set 1 cards, because the set 2 boxes are frankly much more generous. Both of these boxes include a card that gives you a code to unlock about 5,000 crystals in the actual video game as a box topper, which is apparently a pretty generous amount, especially when you add the rainbow cubes, which are used to obtain alternative costumes for the characters. And I actually really like it when a game based on a popular online thing includes some sort of bonus tied to that game, being both a thank you for dedicated fans who are giving the games a try, and as an incentive for people who start with the card game to maybe try the video game. Frankly, it's always a win-win. But the Heroes and Kingdoms set not only has these code cards also be snazzy art cards, but they include some additional box toppers and have generally better ratios for the rare cards you can get, being more in line with its contemporaries while meeting the standards of American card games. Speaking of, on the flip side, Brave Beginnings has custom art for every single card, akin to the likes of Lorcana or any given Bandai game, but Heroes and Kingdoms only saves that privilege for cards at super rare and higher, instead opting to do full art cards made using stock assets, though at least they're nice enough to pull out alternative costumes for cards based on different colors. And I have mixed feelings about this. I've said before that I don't think the use of stock assets is a crime as long as they aren't used repetitively or look ugly. And for stock assets, these actually look really good. I suppose it helps that these were clearly made as vectors from the ground up, and so we don't get the usual jank that stock assets like screenshots tend to give us. On the other hand, games like Lorcana and One Piece are built on their use of new artworks, setting the standard, and the fact that BRAVERSE did such artworks for 2 sets only to cut it out later indicates that maybe they weren't happy with the returns they were getting. But on the other hand, I know that Disney and Bandai are 2 of the largest entertainment companies on the planet, and Cookie Run's developer Dev Sisters is not. It's a give and take, really. Stock assets absolutely have their place in games like this. I did a whole bit on it during the 7 Deadly Sins. But Set 2 also has a lot more interesting cards going on. In my time playing with the starter decks, I found that the level 1 cards, especially the ones with high hit points but expensive weak attacks, were often more of a liability than a strength, as my opponent could simply ignore that weak card that wasn't doing anything to focus fire on the stronger card taking up the other slot. It doesn't help that the first set is full of these sorts of vanilla cookies, again no pun intended. Not so in Set 2. In this set, we have loads of obnoxious level 1 cards that cannot really be ignored, lest they be a constant source of trouble, meaning that now they can serve a role in the game that isn't a hindrance to their user. And then there are the Ancient cards, clearly meant as the star attractions of their own monocolor decks. I only pulled one, and even then just one copy, of Golden Cheese Cookie, a level 3 cookie with the power to bring herself back from the dead, and thus out of the break area, giving you back 3 life and letting you swing with her strong attack again. This can be combined with card effects that bounce her to the hand or heal her to get her back up to full strength to really bring the pain. Although speaking of these ancient cards, there is a Coalition Victory version of the deck that uses every single type of ancient card together, but it looks so open to disruption that I don't think it can be taken all that seriously, as it needs 10 simultaneous cards in play to work. Apparently some people have gotten it to work, but it is far from an absolute. There is apparently a pretty decent variety with mono and duo color decks being dominant depending on what you're going for. And each color is actually based on one of the different cookie kingdoms. Blue is vanilla, red is fruit, purple is chocolate, green is flowers, and yellow is cheese, apparently. Cheese cookies, who'd have thought that? Of course, there are other overlaps and color mixes, but the colors themselves each have a niche, such as red's work on boosting damage, and yellow manipulating the break area. I do hope that as they continue to explore new possibilities and give us more of the sorts of interactions that truly make a game interesting. Just leave the vanilla cookies to the starter decks, I suppose. There are years worth of events and characters across Cookie Run's multiple games that can be tapped into for ideas, and I, for one, am looking forward to it. And it looks like we're going to get a lot, as the game itself is about to hit Set 8 in Southeast Asia, which includes an English release. Southeast Asia is kind of my big secret for getting a lot of English language releases that don't hit the United States. I ordered one of my Millennium Mons from Singapore and nobody was the wiser. The same is true of the cards in this game, so one can technically already plow ahead and get the cards that they want if they like. So yeah, that's Cookie Run BRAVERSE. It's still doing pretty well in Asia, and I do hope we get a lot out of this English release. Even the free gems included inside of each box gives them a base value regardless of what you actually pull, and with how much more generous Set 2 has become, I hope that the game builds enough of a base to keep it going, and even if it doesn't, we can still order the English version cards from Malaysia. Until next time, that was Cookie Run BRAVERSE's American release, and this is Kohdok signing off. And I mean, speaking of artwork, is there any way we could get these burger shop promos in English?